All right, here we go. It is a special edition of the BCJ podcast brought to you by the Holy Grail. I'm Chad Brendel, and today we have a very special guest, none other but the newest Bearcat commitment, Covington Catholic Zone, via Iowa, via Kentucky. The newest commitment today for the Bearcats, shooting guard CJ Fredrick. CJ, what's going on, my man?
What's up, man? Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. Obviously, big news today, but again, thanks for having me. Excited to be on the show.
So you go into the portal Friday, and these things happen pretty quick here.
Mm-hmm.
Take us through the whirlwind that kind of was the last 4 days, and what was it about Cincinnati and Wes Miller that what you zeroed in on?
Yeah, so obviously, I've been through this process once before.
Yeah.
And I kind of knew how crazy it can get. So I think it was important before I entered. I sat down with Coach Cal when I had told him, and everyone said the same thing, like get a list of schools that, you have an interest in, you think your style would translate with, because once you hit the portal, it's just going to be craziness. And it was absolutely, yeah. It was but I had a list of schools written down, went over it with Coach and my family, and Cincinnati was one of those schools. Wes recruited me last time, and there was a common interest there. I really liked Wes. Coach Miller, I should start saying Coach Miller now. And I really believed that my style of how I play would really fit well with the team. And the minute my name entered the portal, he was one of the first ones that called me, and we already had a relationship before. So just seeing more of the style of play, and hearing about the team and living so close, I was able to go down literally the next day and just kind of see everybody, see campus, see the coaches. So that's kind of how it all started so quickly.
That relationship with Wes the first time around, let's be honest, he was coming in, the roster needed some work. They weren't really in a position to win the kind of the way that you were looking for when you were leaving Iowa. But how much did that give Cincinnati a little bit of an advantage that you had spent so much time getting to know him and building that relationship with him the first time to where he wasn't a new face the second time?
It was huge, honestly. I can remember when I had committed to Kentucky, I called schools that were in my top 5, and Cincinnati was one of those schools. And after I hung up with Coach, I looked at my dad and my mom, and I was like, man, like that one really, I had a tough one with that phone call. Like it was a little more, like I had a great relationship with him, and I really believed in him as a coach. It was just, I couldn't do it. So it was a tough one. But like I told my mom and my dad, I was like, man, if I was a senior in high school and I would do it all over again, I would commit with that guy on the spot. So that's how much I believed in Coach. And so it helped tremendously this next time around.
You talked about Saturday. You managed to stop by. My understanding was that was supposed to be a quick little stop by, and it ended up 2.5, 3 hours of you guys kind of chopping it up.
Yeah, I was supposed to just kind of drive. Like I live literally 5 minutes away, so I had told him he was on the phone. Yeah, it could be super easy because he was leaving to recruit. He just wanted to say hi. And I got there, and everyone was just so excited. I hadn't committed yet or anything, but just the feeling and the excitement in the building, and we were there for almost 3 hours just talking about everything and going over the team. And then we both, I really believed in what he had going on. And after that, it was a no-brainer. I called my dad, and I was like, "I'm playing for him. I'm playing for UC. There's no time to keep this process going. Like it's a done deal."
Another guy I heard that was very influential is a fellow Covcath colonel and one of my favorite guys on the planet. Tell me how much Jake Thielen and knowing him and having a relationship with him kind of helped the process.
It was huge. Jake recruited me when he was at Georgia as well. And again, one of those phone calls when I had to call him, it hurt so much because I love Jake and I love his family. So this time around, it was huge because I knew Wes, and then obviously I knew Jake, and our relationship just kept going, going, and going. So Jake has been a huge part of this process and the reason why, I'm doing what I'm doing.
Sneaky, you're an Indiana elite guy too. So you know the Adams family pretty well also.
I do. I do. I didn't even think of it till I went Saturday, and we kind of had talked about it a little bit. So small world, connections everywhere.
Yeah, it's funny how when you start looking, it's like, oh man, this and this and
Right.
this. The past couple years at Kentucky have been a challenge just physically, and it's been freak stuff. It hasn't been anything like, you got a bad knee or, you got a bad ankle or shoulder or something along those lines. How tough has that been mentally to kind of fight through? And where are you at right now coming out on the other side of it?
Man, it's been tough. I went to Kentucky, and even leaving Kentucky, I absolutely love Lexington. I love all of my coaches. I love Cal. Cal was a big reason as well why I'm going to Cincinnati. We had talked, and he said, "Hey, I talked to Coach. That's a great fit for you. I think that's going to be a spot that you really could thrive in." So when Coach Cal had told me that, and that was huge. So his help throughout this whole process has been super appreciate my part, just so appreciative of him. That's just the kind of guy he is. He's truly the best. But yeah, like you said, just a couple of freak stuff. Just try to stay positive through it all. I didn't quite have the luck I wanted, but
Sure.
stay in my faith, and I continue to work hard every single day. So on to Cincinnati, great things coming. Staying positive.
And last year it was kind of just a freak thing, right? You hit your ribs on a camera underneath the basket.
Was on a fast break, and I went up for a layup, and my rib, I hit a camera, and it like knocked the wind out of me, and I was down for a little bit, and I looked around. I was like, "Did I make the layup?" And they're like, "Yeah, you made the layup." And then I played the rest of the game because my adrenaline was so high. I didn't really think
Sure.
anything of it. And then after the game, when my adrenaline had wind down a little bit, like I was struggling to even get into bed. So I kind of knew that there was a problem.
Something's not right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I had to get that checked out, and then of course they said I had cracked ribs. So just a weird fluky thing. It's part of the game, but like you said, just weird stuff.
How much did that affect the shooting?
I mean, it was tough, especially with ribs. Even breathing and running hurts. So coming back and even running was starting to hurt. So it did affect me a little bit, and it happened so kind of late in the season.
Yeah.
I wasn't really able to, get in a really, really good rhythm, and it did affect me a little bit.
So you have a reputation as a shooter. That obviously coming from Iowa, where you were, top 15 in the nation your freshman and sophomore year in 3-point field goal percentage. But you're not just a shooter. Let people know kind of a little bit else about your game, your passing ability, your ability kind of as you've gotten older to attack closeouts and put the ball on the deck. Just to give us the full rundown.
Yeah, like you said, ever since I was little, everyone's kind of had that mold. I'm a shooter. But, I try to do a little bit of everything. I try to make the easy plays for everybody. I move around a lot, back cuts. I just try to use any advantage I can, and that's my moving and, my basketball IQ. So I'm just going to bring a lot of I play with a lot of energy. Sometimes I just, like, there's pictures of me hitting shots and sticking my tongue out. Like, I lose myself into the game. But I love basketball and I love playing. But I think you'll see someone who just competes really, really hard and will do anything to win.
Were they able to show you kind of stuff with Landers and how they used him and how much of that kind of helped your decision that they know how to use a guy like me that can really put the ball in the basket?
Yeah, like I said earlier, this time going into this process, it was all about fit and the style of the play. That was all I was looking at. And from the minute coach had called me and showed me videos, I could see it in my head, just the actions they run and the freedom that I'm going to have, just being able to move around, fly around, and making reads. It's really going to be a perfect fit for me.
Going into the Big 12, how much did that change things? Because look, you can attest to this. Nobody grows up wanting to play in the American Athletic Conference. It's a fine conference. But nobody grows up wanting to do that. And not saying you grew up wanting to play in the Big 12, but it's widely considered one of the top, if not the top basketball conference. Did that have an impact on things as well?
Absolutely. I told Coach, I said, this is a win-win for me. You've checked every single box basketball-wise. I see this is going to be a great fit. And at the end of the day, you want to play against the best. And we're about to play in the best conference in America, night in, night out. It's going to be a war. I was telling my mom and dad, we went to the Roses the other day, right after my visit on Saturday, and I was like, you guys know, like the Big 12, these road games are going to be crazy. Like they love the basketball, and it's why you play. Super fun conference, so it definitely had a big part of it.
How much do you think your experience at Kentucky will help you with that? Because you guys, Cal talks about it a lot. You guys are everybody's championship game. You guys are everybody's Super Bowl when you come to town. Do you think that'll play a big factor?
Yeah, I do. I've learned so much from Cal, and I've learned so much of being at Kentucky, and I've played a lot of basketball. So I'm just coming in, helping in any way I can. Try to be a leader for these guys. And but like you said, I do think that's definitely going to play a part and help.
How much did you get to watch any Cincinnati at all over the past year or so, or was it because you were so busy you didn't have the chance?
I didn't get to watch much. Jeremiah Davenport's a really, really good friend of mine. We've been friends since we were little. So anytime I had a chance to check him out, I would watch and support him. But I do remember one game this past season. We had a noon game and it had ended. So I was able to catch the second half of the crosstown shootout, the Xavier Cincinnati game when I think it was David DeJulius hit like a 4-point play.
Yeah, tied it up.
Wild game. I remember watching that game.
Where are you at on the rivalry? I mean, you grew up around here, but Uncle Joe's got the Notre Dame ties, and were you a neutral observer growing up? I know you went to a lot of games for both, obviously, with you.
Growing up, just with my dad and my uncle working, they carried both Xavier and Cincinnati. So I would go to Xavier games and I would go to Cincinnati games as a kid. And I could always remember my favorite game was the crosstown shootout, just the competitiveness of both teams and how hard they played and how much they wanted to win, not only for them, but for the city and for their fans. But as a kid, I was definitely neutral. But I understand what it means to play in that game, and you're not just playing for yourself. You're playing for your university, and to have that right of winning.
One of the biggest questions when you committed is how many years does he have left? Because nobody knows anymore how many years anybody has left. How many years you got left? What's the plan?
I have 2 years left. That's crazy to even say that. But I've enjoyed every moment of playing college basketball. It's truly one of the best sporting events. And so, I don't know. I can't answer
if things go great, right?
Yeah, I can't answer that. I can't answer that question right now. But, like I said, I love playing college basketball. So if the opportunity to play two comes up and I can, I'll definitely do it. Just have to cross that road when it gets there.
Everybody talks about how crazy the transfer portal is, and you don't have to give us specific stories, but how wild, really, from a player's perspective, how wild is navigating the portal and NIL, and I'm guessing you probably got 50 phone calls immediately on Friday. What's it like from a player perspective?
Yeah, it's wild. Like I said, when I talked to Coach Cal and my family, it was important to put a list of schools down because we knew kind of what it would be like, but I didn't quite expect it to be as crazy as it was. Just the amount of text messages and phone calls, and you see some really cool names and some really cool schools pop up, and you're like, wow. And then the NIL part comes in place, so now you have agents calling you wanting representation to help you with NIL. Just a crazy dynamic right now. But I had great guidance with Coach Cal and my family in setting up a list that I was interested in. And, I didn't get distracted with it. I just kind of, I knew what I was looking for, and I knew what was going to help me in the style of play and the fit. And
how much different was this than the first time you entered the portal?
It was a little different for sure.
NIL was just kind of getting started. It
Yeah.
hadn't really taken off at that point in time.
It's definitely crazier now, like I said, with agents reaching out, because now agents can try to, help you out with NIL stuff with colleges, and then just the way it is now with teams and their NIL stuff. It's definitely crazier this time around. And the second time around, I was getting interest from almost like West Coast, East Coast. I was getting everywhere. The first time when I left Iowa wasn't quite like that. This time it was crazy.
Are we going to hear you on reading every radio spot on iHeartRadio in Cincinnati over the next 2 years? you got an NIL advantage that nobody has.
I know.
Uncle Joe knows where all the money is.
I know.
All right, man. I don't want to keep you too long, but thanks for popping in and doing this with us, and congratulations. I know you're excited to be home. I know the fan base is excited to have you, and can't wait to see you here in the summer. Will you be in? You're a grad transfer, right? So
yep, I graduate in a couple weeks, and then I talk to coach. Whenever I graduate, I can start getting to campus and get to work, and I live 5 minutes away, so it's going to be a quick process for sure.
All right, looking forward to seeing you around the program soon, CJ. Congrats, man.
Thank you for having me. Excited to get to work.
All right, there we go, CJ Fredrick. And we will have more tonight on the BBP. We'll get some good dirt on CJ from another former Cubcat guy, Bearcat legend Zach Tobler. So stay tuned for that. Thanks, CJ. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you guys.